Hey, fellow warriors. Welcome to the Azar Mindset Podcast with your host, Altimese Nichole. She's an award-winning founder to the Azar Agency, a philanthropist, mother, daughter, and friend. Here with the Azar Mindset Podcast, we cultivate a safe space and community to be inspired by women worldwide that strive to be the best version of themselves boldly, softly, and unapologetically. And Azar is a warrior created to help. So let's begin to help one another in family, fun, faith, life, and love.
Hello, and thank you again for joining me with the Azar Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Altimese Nichole, and I am so excited to introduce you to our guest for today. She and I have been friends for many, many years, has actually known one another since we were I say kids, but we weren't really kids, y'all. We were in our early 20s, but when you're in your early 20s, what do you know, for real? So I am so excited to just introduce you to the lovely and beautiful Naeemah Goldson. She is a certified professional organizer and the owner of Restore Order Professional Organizing. She has founded a National Association for Black Professional Organizers, which is a nonprofit that seeks to empower her BIPOC colleagues. And she's just all around amazing. She's a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, doing all of the things and making her dreams come true while helping others stay organized in the process. So welcome, Naeemah. Thank you so much.
Hi, Altimese. Thank you for having me. Such kind words. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your journey, because again, we have known each other since we were early 20s. And at that time, neither of us were married. Neither of us had kids. It was a totally different scenario. So tell me about your journey into marriage.
Right. Oh my God. It's so funny because we worked together at Radio Disney doing promotions.
Yep.
So we worked with kids, we worked setting up equipment, giving away promotional items and things of that nature. And while I was working at Radio Disney, I was also working at CNN. I started in the CNN tour department, and then I moved on to CNN radio eventually, but I realized quickly, after a year, that wasn't for me. But while I was at CNN, that's when I met my husband. So he also worked in the CNN tour department. And it was pretty much a bunch of people fresh out of college that worked in that department. And, people went to, various parts of CNN or left the company altogether or what have you. When I moved on to radio, he went to sports. He was in sports for a while. But while we were in the tour department, that's when we started kind of dating. I didn't really like him at first because, I feel a lot of the girls that I worked with thought he was cute. And I'm like, he's all right. I mean, he's not all that,
right.
And then he started expressing interest in me. And then I was like, does he have a crush on me? What's really going on? I don't like him like that. What's going on? But then I feel we ended up in, a lot of situations together.
Yeah.
So, even though Atlanta has a lot of Black folks, the tour department did not, compared to the amount of white people that they had in there, it was probably a handful of us Black folks, right?
Yeah.
So whenever we went out with our colleagues, it seemed to be he and I, the only Black people there. And it's just a level of comfort you have with your people.
Hang
right?
Together.
So that's how he got me. It was just hanging with him. I'm like, okay, he's kind of cool. Okay, maybe. But yeah, so we started, that was oh my God, that was in 2006 when we started dating.
Yeah.
And then we got married in 2010 and we've been married ever since.
I still remember your wedding pictures, by the way. I loved your wedding pictures. And I remember you had a pretty orange incorporated. It was just, I remember.
Orange.
Yes. I still remember. And, it's amazing because I ended up working at CNN. So we worked together at Radio Disney, and then I got into CNN and I left Radio Disney. And then when I got into CNN, I ended up running into your now husband, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's my girlfriend." And I'm like, "What?" Like, it's such a small world in terms of like connections and things. So like, okay, so let's fast forward. Okay. And now you're married and you begin to have kids. Like, how in the world, how did you, like, how was that journey into motherhood, and was it an easy transition for you?
No. Oh my God. Woo, it was rough. It was rough from like the pregnancies, my first pregnancy. Oh my God. It was hard. I think one of the hardest things was, being in Atlanta away from my family, because the majority of my family is in Nebraska. My mom is in Nebraska. The majority of my siblings are in Nebraska. So, that part of it was tough. Growing up, so I have a younger brother and sister. They are like 9 and 10 years, like 9.5 and 10.5 years younger than me.
Okay.
And I helped to raise them, but nothing prepared me for actually being pregnant. My mom had 8 kids. She made it look easy,
Right,
Like, I
right.
didn't realize the extent of things that could happen when you're pregnant. Now, I did see it with my oldest sister had issues with like throwing up all the time when she had her second daughter, and she was like really, really skinny. So when her daughter was born full term, she was like 5 pounds, So my sister had issues. So I saw those issues.
Right.
But the things that I experienced, no one else in my family experienced. So it was, and I don't know, I feel like maybe my body went into shock because my son, he is a big boy, like tall.
Yeah.
And I was very tiny then. Like, I was so
Girl.
small.
And you might be onto something, because I feel like our bodies, as the baby is growing and developing, it's like certain parts of our bodies are like, wait, what? What are we doing? Even though it's designed,
Yeah.
it's literally designed for it. But like our frame, our size, our shapes, like,
Yeah.
it all
Mhm.
impacts like just that transition into the transformation of being prepared for birth and all of that. And it's just,
Yeah.
so you might be onto something, like for your body
It,
to just go in shock and be like, what?
girl. Yes, because everything was going haywire. Like, what happened? So when I was 20 weeks pregnant, I pulled a muscle in my stomach. So it was hard for me to like stand up, sit down. It was hard to lay down. So I had to wear like a support belt. And this was just at 20 weeks,
Right, right.
So like, I wasn't even that big, but I pulled a muscle. I got some kind of rash all over my arms and legs that lasted for like a good 2 weeks.
Wow.
I ended up getting preeclampsia, so I had to go on bed rest. I think with maybe like a month left in my pregnancy, I had to go on a modified bed rest. So I had to stop working, and it was just a hot mess. And then the birth was a hot mess as well. It took like 27 hours of labor. I had to be induced because my blood pressure went high. So like with preeclampsia, if people don't know what that is, it's like you're spilling protein in your urine. You might have high blood pressure, headaches, and it can be dangerous. It can turn into like toxemia, and that can kill you. That can kill the baby. So just a lot of things. But during labor, I had to, since I was being induced, they were giving me Pitocin, but my son did not react well to the Pitocin. So every time he got it, his heart rate would drop. So there was that. So they had to give it to me slowly, hence the 27 hours of labor. And then by the time it came to actually deliver him, all of a sudden I had like a whole bunch of nurses. I think I pushed for maybe like almost 2 hours. I had a whole bunch of nurses come in the room and start yelling at me to push. And I'm like, why are these women yelling at me? Like, what's going on? They're like, push, push, push. I'm like, oh my God. And then he came out. And I learned later that his heart rate was dangerously low. So they were trying to hurry up and get him out before something happened to him. And I'm like, okay, they could have led with that.
Right. Rather than just like running in like, push, like,
Right.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was just a lot. So like the whole like pregnancy, I wish I was someone who enjoyed pregnancy, but I didn't. It was hard on me. It was rough. I had postpartum depression after, I cried. My mom was there for the delivery, but she left because I think she came like I think she was there for like 2 or 3 weeks. And it took me forever to to go into labor. But like I said, I had to be induced. And then so by the time I had my oldest son, Ethan, who's 11 now, but by the time I had him, I was she only had a week left.
Yeah.
So when she left, I cried every single day for a week straight. It was tough. It was tough. And I don't think anyone prepared me for that part of it either, because I didn't see anyone experience that, or they weren't vocal about experiencing that. But 11 years later, my son, he's going to go to middle school soon, and he's thriving, and he's a very smart boy, and he's still super tall. He is almost taller than me at the age of 11. He's like an inch shorter than me. Wow. So yeah. And then with the second child, I almost didn't want to have another one because of how hard it was, but I grew up with a lot of siblings. So I didn't want Ethan to be an only child. So I had Gavin. Gavin's pregnancy was easier, still rough, but easier. His delivery was way easy. Like I pushed for I think the doctor said I did 1.5 pushes and he came out, so it was easy. I went into labor on my own. I had some issues, but it wasn't full blown preeclampsia. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't like as high risk as Ethan's was. So I mean, that was fine. But then Gavin later on, started having some developmental challenges. So he was diagnosed with autism when he was about to turn 5 years old. So that's, kind of the issue that, we've dealt with for a while. And, and our lifestyle is just different. It's nothing really could have prepared me for that because again, none of my siblings have kids on the spectrum, so I wasn't prepared for that. And I have so many nieces and nephews that, before I had children, I had a lot of nieces and nephews. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, I guess I am a trailblazer in certain things that you don't want to be a trailblazer in, but it's like, you have no choice.
Yeah. And how did how did you all identify that, hey, we may need to get him checked out? Like, what signs were there for you in just, getting that knowledge that he was on the spectrum?
Yeah. So my son is nonverbal. So, what they call nonverbal. So he early on, like around age 2, he would say some words here and there, but it was always few and far between, so he would say mommy. He doesn't really say mommy anymore. He'll sign it, now, but he doesn't really say it much anymore. Or if I'm like gone for a few days, he might, say it. I remember there was one time because it was so like, he would say something, but then not talk for a long time, and then say something, but not talk for a long time. So I remember him referring to his brother Ethan as Eton. I remember him saying that when he was like 2 or 3. And then I remember one time I gave him like his sippy cup and he grabbed it and said, thank you, and ran away. But he was never like consistent with using his words. So we took him to the doctor and he was diagnosed with a speech delay.
Okay.
So then from being diagnosed with a speech delay, so first the doctor diagnosed him with speech delay. We have to go and do speech classes or whatever like that.
Yeah.
We put him in a special needs preschool because, they say early intervention, blah, 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 it's helpful, whatever. And then when we went to like the next checkup and he still wasn't talking, they're like, okay, so we'll diagnose him with developmental delay. So he's now diagnosed with speech delay, developmental or global developmental delay or whatever. Because I mean, he hit all his milestones. The only thing was the talking,
right.
Like he started walking at 10 months old. All of that everything was normal. And then after that, I guess they want you to do the speech first. They want you to do the OT first before they, give you an autism diagnosis. Right. So then eventually, he still wasn't, talking consistently, I should say. And so then he was diagnosed with autism, but then more signs started coming. So he would cover his ears, a lot. So if any loud noise, he's covering his ears. He's kind of like ducking down, maybe covering his face. Any super bright lights. So for him, it's mostly like sensory type stuff. So he has the wiggles all the time. He's so giggly. He's always jumping and happy and all that stuff. But that's like, sensory stuff. So we have to make sure that we have like sensory things in our house. Like we have a big trampoline outside. We have a crash pad for him. We have swings. So there are just like so many things. We have weighted blankets, so many things that we have around that, help us with it. But yeah, no, I mean, overall, he's like a normal kid. He just doesn't talk. I mean, he loves the ladies. Let me tell you, like if he met you, he'd be smiling. He'd probably be touching your hair. We're trying to get him out of that because he's 8 years old now, right? But he loves women. He don't care for men.
Right.
He loves women. And
he's a little ladies'
and he
man.
has such a cute smile. He is. And he has a cute smile, so the women are always like, "Oh, Gavin, you're so cute," and he eats it up, So.
That is awesome, and I really admire like your attention to detail when it came to his development and his growth as a child. And it's really important to just study your kids. Figure out who they are. Right? It's so easy as moms to just assume that we kind of got our, we're on the pulse of everything and we got all these other moving pieces. And when our child is kind of like looking for our help for something, we're like, you could do this yourself, or I got this to do, or I got that to do. But it's really important to just study them, see what they like, what they don't like, and really kind of help them lean into those things while, staying on alert for those things that could potentially be something that you may need to keep in mind for the future. How did all of that impact like your marriage and just the evolution of your marriage in that way?
Yeah. It's definitely tough. Like having a special needs kid. So having kids is tough, right?
Yep.
If you have a special needs child, add like times that by 10 to the 23rd power, because it literally is so hard because there are so many things that you have to do. Like there are so many different appointments that I have to take Gavin to, He has ABA therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. He has so many things. So he's not able to, do like the fun stuff, the fun activities that other kids get to do because he's in therapy all the time, And so it's like, me and my husband having to, I mean, it mostly falls on me, but, there are times where he, might have in the beginning taken him, to his therapy or picked him up or sat there with him through the therapy. Excuse me. So the therapy that we have him in right now, ABA therapy, is applied behavioral analysis. A lot of kids who are diagnosed with autism attend ABA therapy. The program that we have is really good and it's an all day kind of thing. So we have a little bit more flexibility now, but because, like I said, it's all day. But when he was younger and having to take him to speech, an hour here, an hour there, sitting there, waiting with him and everything. In my girl, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
In my area, there, we don't have like a children's hospital close by. It's about 20, 30 minutes away. And then depending on Atlanta traffic, it could be 45 minutes, right? So it's like taking the time to go there and, have his appointments. They want you to meet several times a week. So, I mean, it's just tough. But then there's also like kind of like the little things that happen. So I got to tell you the story that happened last weekend. It was terrifying. So my son likes to, he likes to be independent. He likes to go off and do things on his own. Like he'll go upstairs and just chill. Like he's fine. He doesn't need people around him all the time. Well, my husband was installing new cameras around the house. And he installed one in the front and had the front door open and unlocked. And then he was installing some in the backyard. And Gavin and Ethan, Gavin's my younger one. So Gavin was out there with him playing. And Ethan came in and had like a splinter. I had to help him get the splinter out and give him a Band-Aid and, all this and that. And so, and then Ethan, he likes to garden. So he was like, okay, I'm going to go and get some stuff out the garage. So he kept running in and out. So Gavin came in and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize he came in. So Eric came in the house and was like, hey, did Gavin go upstairs? And I'm like, what do you mean did he go upstairs? I didn't see Gavin in here. He was like, yeah, he just came in. And I was like, oh, I thought that was Ethan. All right, let me check. I'm checking all around the house. I could not find him. Like, I looked everywhere. And he's the type of kid where he likes dark places. So he might go hide in a closet. He'll throw a blanket over his head. He likes to climb in the dryer. We have to keep the laundry room door locked. He's that kind of kid, right? And he thinks it's funny. So he'll go and he'll hide and he'll laugh. So I'm like calling like all around the house, like Gavin, you know, but if he's there, he'll laugh, you know, because he thinks it's funny, right? So then I have an au pair right now. And she was like, well, I heard Gavin laugh. I think he's upstairs. And I'm like, I don't know. So I go, I look out the door. I don't see him around anywhere. And then I'm like, okay, let me look at the cameras. I tried to look at the new cameras. The new cameras weren't completely set up. So I'm like frantic, trying to look at the cameras like, oh my God, what happened? What happened? Luckily, we have a Ring doorbell as well, right?
Yeah.
So I looked at the Ring doorbell and I see that he went to the door and kind of like contemplated going out. And then he ran out the door and laughed and bolted. And I'm like, oh my God. So we're like frantic, looking around the neighborhood. God. Girl, I had to call the police. I was like, help me find my son. Where is he? So we have a park across the street from our house. Well, not across the street from our house, across the street from our neighborhood.
Okay.
In our house, we have a really big yard. It backs up to the house that's right on the entryway, but there's also a main road there. Now, this road is pretty busy. But anyway, he managed to cross the street and go into the park. So my husband, he was like, all right, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to go look for him. And I was like up kind of at the front. I was going to walk to the park, but then I saw my husband drive and I was like, I just pointed to the park to him, right? He goes there. Gavin's in the park playing.
What?
Playing in the park.
Oh my gosh.
So I was he was missing for like 20 minutes, you know. I can kind of laugh at it now, you know, like just the thought, like the nerve of this kid. How's he gonna just leave by himself
and go to the park
across the street?
But I can only imagine the nerves, the emotion in that moment, like.
It was scary because I'm like, oh my God, like, where is he? If someone asks him who he is, he's not going to tell them because, first of all, he doesn't like people he doesn't know, you know? So if someone would come up to him, he'd probably just cover his face and like duck down or whatever. But I'm like, oh my God, he could have gotten kidnapped, this and that. And I'm not really worried about him getting kidnapped because my son fights back. Like, if he doesn't like you,
he'll start swinging.
You know, like he's not gonna let you touch him. He's just not. He's not that kid, you know. So, but I was mostly worried about, you know, him possibly getting like hit by a car or something like that. Now that terrified me. But from like so he was gone for like a total of like 20 minutes, you know, because I'm looking. I think I spent like 10 minutes looking for him. You know. And then I started walking up and down the street looking for him. Like, did he go into a neighbor's house? Like, where'd he go? But you know, things like that are really scary. It shows like, you know, for what, you know, the diagnosis that Gavin has and the type, because, you know, no two kids on the spectrum are the same, you know, it's just like keeping him safe is tough. Like, it is hard. And we never leave our front door open or unlocked either, you know? And it just so happens that it was open, it was unlocked. Our alarm sensor on that door is gone because you know, we had a remodel last year and the workers broke it and we hadn't replaced it yet. So it's like, it was just like a lot of little things that contributed to that. Add in tired parents who, you know, might not notice a little kid come in and slip by you, you know? So it's like things like that make it like really, really tough. But then it also helps us to be, you know, hyper vigilant, I think. So it's like, okay, that happened once. That's not happening again. Like, we are not going to let that happen again. So, but yeah, no, it's tough. Like there's like a lot of things, you know, a lot of like small little things that make it even harder. But, you know, it just is what it is. It's like we just roll with the punches.
And we've literally just talked about the motherhood part. Like, we have not
Yeah.
discussed the fact that you are literally running a business. You started a whole organization, ma'am. An entire organization, like, and managing that. Like, how in the world? Like, how are you managing it all? How are you doing it all?
Girl, I don't know.
The truest response ever.
I don't know. I have so many things going on all the time. I started my business in 2013, and I started it after I had my oldest son Ethan, because I had trouble getting back into the media industry, because the media industry is not easy.
It's not.
It's like, once you get in, you need to stay there until you get to where you want, But I was working at Cox Communications at that time, and it was a very toxic environment. So it was very easy for me to say, nope, I'm just going to stay with my baby for a year, and then I'll get back in. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be, you know, to get back in there. Like, it was tough. I didn't want to go back to, the place I was working, because the supervisor was very toxic. It was just a very toxic environment. Remember, there was one time where I worked 18 hours straight, like, it was just a very, it was a rough environment. So I was like, I'm not going back to that. Not as a mother. I'm not working this night shift. I'm not doing any of that. So I applied for a few jobs. I applied for a few jobs at Turner, and I got very far, like top 5 on one, top 3 on another. Didn't get either of those jobs. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? What can I do? And so we'd hired a professional organizer for my mom, like a few months prior, to help her get it together. And my oldest sister was like, Naeemah, you can just start an organizing business, because all this woman did was this, and this, and you organize mom way better when you come, So I was like, oh, maybe I can. So I started looking into it a little bit more, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I found a mentor. She was great. She was a Black woman who looked like me, like a Black woman with freckles. She looked just like me. We looked like we were from the same tribe. And I'm like, okay, this is a sign. She let me come and shadow her on jobs. She let me help her out on jobs. And then she was like, so when are you going to start your organizing business? And I was like, I don't know. I think I need to save up this amount of money. And she was like, no, you don't. She was like, there are very little startup costs. You don't need to save this amount of money. Just do it. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. So then I looked into it, and I'm like, okay, she's right. Let me just do it. I took some of her advice on how she got, clients. Like, she did Groupon to build up a clientele. I did that as well. That helped me, back in those days, that helped me, to build up a clientele. And so, so then I started the business, and I've had it for like this year, made 10 years for my business. So it's crazy.
Congratulations.
Right? It's so crazy. Thank
and
you.
Like, how
Thank
has it been in the organizing industry as a Black woman? Because I'm sure, that plays a part into why you started your organization in the first place. But, like, share with us, like, how that process has been for you.
Yeah. So it's tough, because our industry was and still is white woman dominated. It's like, middle-aged white woman dominated. So I'd say when I came in, the majority of organizers were probably in their 40s and 50s. So there weren't a lot of younger organizers when I started. I was I don't know, I think I was 30 when I started it. So it was tough navigating that, because there were times where I reached out to other organizers to ask information, and the only one that responded was the Black woman, or the only one that gave me information was the Black woman who became my mentor for a short time. And the other women were like, oh, just join NAPO. Or they'd be like, oh no, I don't hire people to help me, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not asking you to pay me. I'm asking if I can shadow you so I can see, So that was tough. So it was just, it made you feel like, you're in this industry, but it made you feel like you're a guest in the industry. Like, you don't belong. You're just a guest, And so because of that, that is why I started NAPO. I started NAPO, well, let me backtrack. I started a group on Facebook first. So I was in some, organizing Facebook groups started to surface in like maybe around like 2014 or 2015 or, around there. And I started joining the groups. I'm like, oh, this is great. Other organizers, this and that. Again, white women dominated. So mostly white women in these groups. And I noticed when I would ask questions, it would be met with like a snarky response or just go ignored. And then I started looking, so then I kind of stepped back and I was like, okay, I'll just be a lurker. I'll just see if they have answers to the things that I need, or that for the questions that I have, right? And so I started to notice other Black women were asking questions as well. And the same thing was happening. And I'm like, what? Like, seriously?
Right.
So what I did, I was like, all right, I'm just going to create a Facebook group for Black female professional organizers because it's a female dominated industry. We barely have any men. I think we have 2 men in our organization. But so I started that, and then I started recruiting people from that Facebook group. So they're like one of my friends, who she and we have a conference that we're going to in Vegas, and she's coming as well. But I think she's the first one that I invited to the Facebook group because I saw like her ask a question, and then the same thing that happened to her happened to me. So I answered her question, and then I said, and hey girl, I started this Facebook group. Do you want to come join? It's for Black women. I messaged her on the side. I said something like, I answered her question, and then I said, hey, I sent you a DM or whatever. I messaged you, whatever. And I told her, girl, come join this because these women don't care about us.
And like
I'm having the same experience.
Girl, okay, so can we just say in this very moment, right? We're all in this journey together. We're all trying to make things happen together, right? Mm-hmm. And the most disheartening part of the process is being made to feel as if you don't belong because of the color of your skin or because of some socio-economic difference or whatever the unconscious bias in your mind, in your head, that is then placed on somebody else. That is the most disheartening reality that we have to face. And to everybody listening, I just need you to like gut check yourself. Ask yourself if you have ever done that to anyone else, period. Because it's such that is indeed the story of most Black women entrepreneurs. Like, I started my company because I was like, I got laid off from corporate, and my ex-husband said the best advice ever. He was like, instead of asking for a seat at a table that wasn't even created for you in the first place, focus on building your own. And that was like the best advice. But the fact that he even saw that I would have to ask, hey, can I sit here? Can I sit with you? And it wasn't even created for me. So even if I sat there, I didn't belong. I didn't feel accepted. You know what I mean? And I just have to call that out because as women, as warriors, as Azars, we are supposed to help each other. That's the tightest woman. And it doesn't matter what she looks like. Doesn't matter where she comes from. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If we are to help one another, we are to help one another, period. It should never feel like, and know that there are over, I want to say at this point, 7 billion people on this earth. Like, there's enough for everybody. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to it's not a competition. You do not have to hoard or hide or conceal the wisdom that you have or the things that you have learned out of fear that someone else is going to take it from you. Girl, it's enough for everybody. Like, don't even, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can literally have all the abundance that you need to be very successful in your life and creating a legacy for your family. And there still be someone in your circle doing the exact same thing and she's winning too, and she's living, and she's successful, and
Right.
she's abundant. I just had to break that down because, like, it frustrates me because that is truly, that's the story for a lot of Black women. We have,
Yeah.
like, I myself included, I've experienced that myself, where all of a
Mm.
sudden, because I'm a Black woman, you're
Mm-hmm.
threatened, you're feeling something that is then
Yeah.
you're in position to either help, ally, or not.
Mm-hmm.
And you choose not
Right.
to. And it's just like, hey, we got to stop this. Like, gut check yourself. Because,
Right.
it's not right. It's not right at all. And
Mm-hmm.
we all deserve equity. We deserve access. We deserve to feel like we belong. And we
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be able to just be in a sense of community without feeling pushed out merely because we're different.
I agree completely. I agree. It's tough. It's like and it's funny because it's like you have to be strong to survive that,
Yes.
you know? Because it's like if you're constantly getting pushback and the lack of support, they say so the top issues that Black women face when it comes to business is lack of
Yep.
capital, you know, lack of support
Yep.
and burnout. Like we're getting burned out because of all these things that we have to deal with. Because on top of being a woman, which is hard enough,
Yep.
right? Then you have like all these other factors that, oh, by the way, I'm Black too. So I know that I'm gonna have an uphill battle, whereas you can see it like on Instagram, new white organizers get on Instagram all the time, right? And they like build up a following like that.
Mm.
Black organizers, it's a
Mhm.
struggle. It's a struggle to have our own people follow us.
Mhm.
It's like it's a struggle. It's like, come
And that
on,
is so
like help
crazy.
a sister out.
I just saw a post on Facebook, and it was about, it was like a poll and asking women, entrepreneurs and mompreneurs, when's the best time to have a webinar, to host a webinar? Like, what would be the best time? And, of course, in a question like that, you're going to get answers all across the board because it's dependent upon that person's availability. But one thing that I saw
Mm-hmm.
that was consistent, that every woman, like the majority, people were saying, oh, after eight, 9, after 8, after 8. And I'm thinking to myself, right? I'm in this season where I think God is like sitting me down to teach me the beauty of rest, number one, and then the beauty
Mm-hmm.
of knowing that you're covered by him. So I don't have to work
Yeah.
as hard. Yes, I do have to put in my effort.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do the work, but the outcome is not because of me. The outcome is just because I made that
Mm-hmm.
step. So I'm learning that
Mm-hmm.
in this very moment. And I thought to myself, like, man, if you've been up, you made breakfast for your kids. You made them lunch. You work. So you went to work.
Yeah.
You probably had to do some errands in between then. Ain't nobody saying nothing about a husband or a spouse or a significant other just yet. You still have to eat yourself in terms of lunch, breakfast, whatever. You got to cook. You got to make sure the food, even if you're not cooking, okay, you got to go get the food. You got to figure out, make sure everybody has what they need. There's homework. You got to make sure the homework is done. You got to make sure this is done. Oh, you got to get ready for the next day. You got to prepare for the next day. So you got to put the clothes out. You got to make sure everybody did what they needed to do. 8 o'clock rolls around. Where were you in this whole scenario in terms of just nurturing yourself? So by us then saying, oh yeah, 8
Mm-hmm.
p.m., 9 p.m., girl,
Mm-hmm.
where's your self-care?
Yeah.
Like, when are you going
Yeah.
to be able to stop and just
Mm.
self-reflect, read a book,
Mm-hmm.
girl,
Mm.
put some lotion on intentionally and not just slap it on. You know what I'm saying? Like, to just embrace the fact that you got this beautiful glowing skin. And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, when are you going to do that? Or it's like an expectation that we still have to constantly be on. And it was so eye-opening for me because I was like, and then, okay, let's add in a significant other. Okay. Naeemah,
Mm-hmm.
girl, you doing a webinar at 8, 9 o'clock at night, when are you having boo time? Like, when are you know what I'm saying? Like, when are you like setting intentional time for your relationship with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and your relationship with your spouse? Yes, children are extremely important. Yes, you have to make sure that they have what they need to thrive and grow into being you just well-rounded human beings in society. Absolutely. But it starts with them seeing it in you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it starts with them identifying
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, mommy takes care of herself. I got to take care of myself too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it starts
Right,
there. And
right.
I was blown away by how many women just gave their evenings away. Like, literally was like, here you
Yeah.
go. Like, and I'm just like, we have
Mm-hmm.
to start to reshift this narrative because we matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that
Yeah.
we weren't told. We were just said, hey, you're a woman, you
Right.
got to take care of the house, you got to do these things. Oh, if you want to run a business, great. But your priority, your first ministry is your home. You know what I'm saying? So you
Mm-hmm.
don't it
Yep.
makes you
Yep.
feel as if you can't even have a break because you've
Yeah.
chosen to follow your dreams and pursue your goals of being an entrepreneur and a business owner. And then, oh, if I'm doing this, I still got to take care of, because home is my first ministry. And what
Yeah.
if they're equal? What if
Yeah.
your business was literally intended to manifest so you can create an organization for Black women to have a safe space in their industry? What if,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, you
Yeah.
have to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to nurture yourself. And, I was listening to Ayanna Van Zant's The R Spot this morning, which, oh my God, it's so amazing. It's so good, so good. But she was talking to
I'll have to
someone.
check it
Yes,
out.
it was so good. She was talking to someone and she said, we cannot expect others to give us what we first don't give to ourselves. Like, we cannot
Mm.
expect people to give to us something that we barely make the time to give to ourselves. And on top of
Mm.
that, if we're looking down at our relationships and we're like, oh, well, this person did this person betrayed me, everything in life is a mirror. Everything reflects back to us. So we think of betrayal as like the big things, but self betrayal is
Mm-hmm.
literally saying, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm a meal prep to make my life easier
Yeah.
on Sundays, and you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's self
Mm.
betrayal. That's literally
Mm.
subconsciously telling your brain, like, oh, I say I'm
Yeah.
going to do things, and then I don't do them. Like, it
Mm.
was just such a powerful moment of like revelation that as women,
Yeah.
society has put these expectations on us on how we should
Oh
show
yeah.
up instead of how we should
Mm-hmm.
just be. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really eye opening to me. Like, okay, so if there's someone out in our audience listening to this, they have all these things juggling on their plate. They're trying to build their business. They're trying to grow and build a nonprofit organization. They have kids, they have a spouse, they have all of these things. And sometimes it feels like they just handling it all solo dolo, right? Even, I'm not saying this is you, but
Yeah.
like, even with a spouse, a lot of the responsibility still falls on the woman to kind of maintain the operations. Like, what would you share with
Oh
her?
yeah.
Like, how would you encourage her along her journey?
I would say, you don't have to do it
Mm,
all. You don't have to do it all. I know a lot of times pressure is put on us. It's like that whole emotional labor part where we have to think about all the things that we have to think about, the groceries that are running out. We have to think about, making sure the kids have clothes to wear. We have to think about, their school projects or whatever is going on. But you don't have to do it all.
mm,
You know, you can, hire somebody. Like I mentioned earlier that I have an au pair, hire help, hire an au pair, hire a nanny, hire someone to meal prep for you. If you want to meal prep, but you don't have the time to do that, hire someone to do that for you. There are so many people on Instagram selling services like that. You know, there are small businesses that can use your help. You know, hire someone to do your laundry, hire someone to help you, hire an assistant for 5 hours a week to help you get some of your stuff done. You know, just, you don't have to do it on your own. Yes. And I feel like I've been blessed with good business partners as well, you know? So like my business partners in NABCO, we feed off of each other. If there's something I can't do, they step up to do it, you know? So I think it's surrounding yourself with a good, a sisterhood, family, you know, whatever it is. Like I said, I don't have a lot of family out here. So it's like those friends, those business partners have become my family. They're like my sisters, and I know I can count on them. So really rely on your system, you know, the network of people that you have, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because a lot of times we are just taking it on, and next thing you know, you're having a breakdown, right? It's like your hair's falling out, you're gaining weight, or you're losing too much weight, or whatever it is. It's like, take that time and make sure that you are utilizing the people around you for help. Because when you think about it, I feel like people don't have a problem coming to me asking me for help. Right. You know, so I'm sure people are asking you for help. So return the favor, ask them for help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the absolute, that's truth. That's facts right there. So if someone wanted to connect with you just to say thank you, or because they're, wanting to learn about professional organizing, or need your services, how can they find you?
So they can go to my website. I have a couple websites, but I will give you NaeemahFordGoldson.com. NaeemahFordGoldson.com. You can get to all my socials from there. You can get to my Restore Order website. That is how you can find me. Shoot me an email or whatever, but that's how you find me.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, ladies, for listening in to another amazing episode of the Azar Mindset podcast. And remember that you are so worthy. You are so worth it. Take time for yourself. Take time to love yourself and nurture yourself. And in return, you'll be able to give that to everybody that you love. All right. Talk to you in the next episode. Okay. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast episode of the Azar Mindset Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay connected and in the know of all upcoming inspiring conversations with Altimese, Nichole, and inspiring women from all around the world. Until next time, stay soft and fearless, Queen.